Stay tuned because next up we have David Charles Allen, Village Properties Realtor and host of The Hop. That's Home Ownership Podcast, here to tell us about real estate in Santa Barbara.
Welcome to The Hop. This is David Charles Allen, Realtor at Village Properties in Santa Barbara, California, with my great friend and co-host, Patti Teal. I'm doing great today, Patti. How you doing?
I'm doing well too, David. Thank you.
Good to hear. We got sunny skies out in Santa Barbara. We're looking ahead to getting the temperatures back up there in the 70s, scattered throughout, and then high 60s as well. It's getting a little chilly at night, but we're having some really beautiful days.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Sweater weather at night and just gorgeous in the day.
Yeah, it's really nice, but one downside is there's no real waves on the horizon. This is kind of the period of time where it's really tough to find a good swell. The south swells really haven't started building yet, and we haven't really getting any more northwest swells. So it's going to be all kind of sneaky wind swells from here on out.
I love that. Sneaky wind swells.
That's right.
So you have to really be on the lookout and know where to look.
Yeah, exactly. And then, huge change in interest rates this last week. So large bump ups of 5.75% for 30-year jumbo and 6.375 for 30-year conforming.
Wow.
So that's more than half a percentage jump in just this last week.
Yeah. And I know last week you explained how hard that is for clients that are potentially looking for a home right now. So they kind of just see their payments going up right before their eyes before they get a chance to close.
Yeah. I don't think we've seen this big of a hike in years where it's within a week, you're up 0.5%. That's probably the biggest one we've seen. Usually it's been more gradual.
Mm-hmm.
But it changes what you can afford within a couple of days. So maybe you can afford $1 million home, but now you're down to being able to afford $950,000, and prices aren't dropping either. So it really puts a lot of stress on people that are looking to buy right now.
Yeah, that's a little hard to take when you have your heart set on a home and you figured out that you could afford it, and now you decide you can't afford it anymore.
Yeah, it's all part of life, I guess, is being able to switch your mentality into thinking something different and what's really most important to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then in terms of how the statistics have performed, we had 38 new listings, 11 price changes, 29 that closed, 25 that went pending, 7 back on the market, and 2 coming soon. That's great. We're almost up to 40 new listings, which is amazing. And then again, a pretty solid buildup of the supply and the difference between new listings and pendings.
Well, that is good. I think it's been a long time since you've been close to 40.
Yeah, it's been quite some time, probably last year sometime.
Mm-hmm. But you say the prices have not dropped at all. They're just hanging steady?
They're hanging steady. We have seen, kind of talked about it, we had like a little lull over winter and the new year, and where prices were dropping or steadying and slightly dropping, and things were staying on the market a little bit more. We're starting to see that those desirable homes, though, still get those overbids and stuff like that. So it's really dependent on the home and the quality and the location these days.
Mm-hmm. Right. Whereas before, anything sold, no matter where it was.
Exactly. Anything sold for over asking.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Any questions of the day for me?
Well, you kind of brought it up a little bit that some houses are staying on the market a little longer. So I wondered what the average time a house in Santa Barbara stays on the market before it sells.
I don't have that number right in front of me. Before it was like 2 to 3 days. Right now, I'm guessing it's probably closer on average, probably like 10 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not really seeing homes stay on the market for longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
But before, you could have like a 30-day average or maybe even a 45-day average.
Right.
In like a typical market. Now it's still extremely low. We still have a low supply. You're not really seeing homes stay on the market more than a couple months unless you're in the higher price bracket. So if you're in typical bracket between probably 1 or 2 million, maybe even like 2.5, you're probably only staying on the market for a month maximum.
Mm-hmm. So it's a little different with the mansion type homes that are, say, 10 million or above.
Yeah, those are always going to be different because it's always going to represent a unique buyer.
Right. So, David, I wonder, it's kind of goes along with that first question. At what point do you advise your client to drop the price on a home?
Again, it's going to be dependent on the location and the price and just the market at that time. If you want to make a relation to what we were going through last year when everything was selling, if it wasn't selling within the first couple of days, something was wrong. And it usually comes back to price or staging or accessibility and ease of access to be able to buy the home and move into it. There's all kinds of back things they wanted a lease back or something like that.
Right. Some unusual offer.
Everyone's going to have a unique situation that you have to observe and be able to isolate what may be causing someone not to purchase it. In this kind of market, we're still in that, if it's priced right, it's going to be selling pretty quickly. So I would say probably 2 weeks in this market to really adjust, but it's really going to depend on the turnout too. If you had a bunch of people that said they were going to write offers, but they didn't, so you're close.
Oh, right, right.
If you have no showings at all, that means you're really far away.
Oh, yeah.
It's you judge it based on that. And usually it's if you're getting close, you're usually 5% off in terms of what someone would pay. If you're not getting any showings at all, usually 10% off in terms of your price.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so it kind of relates to who's showing it, how many people are seeing it. Do people say they're going to write offers and they're not? Do they just need a little more motivation to write something a little bit closer to their price range? So it's really dependent on so many different factors.
Yeah, that makes sense, David. I was wondering what a seller might do if they got an offer right off the bat, say the first day, and they turned it down because it was a little lower than they wanted, but then later they regretted it. Can they go back to that seller and say, we think your offer's okay after all, or is it likely that the buyer at that point will say, well, forget you didn't take it before? Have you had that circumstance happen?
It happens all the time. I mean, buying a house is an emotional thing. So if you piss someone off, so to say, but not accepting an offer they thought was really good, it can lead to them going somewhere else or even not wanting that home at all. They'll be reminded of how that played out and they don't even want to purchase the home anymore. So it's a very delicate balance between ensuring everyone stays happy if you're going to not accept their offer. Yeah, that happens all the time. And a lot of the times the other people the buyers end up just saying, no, I don't want it. Or I'll take it, but here's even a lower price. So then it gets into kind of a pissing match of egos and emotions. So
right. So it is a bit of a delicate dance.
Yeah, it's always going to be the people's decision, but having someone to talk to understand all this is important for sure.
Yes, that's where the realtor can definitely possibly smooth things over, or they can try.
Yeah, that's the whole point, is try and keep everyone happy. Let people know this is a big thing on both sides. So it can definitely come back and lose you some money for sure.
Right. So David, now maybe we can talk about the fur babies because you have so many of them.
Yeah, everyone's doing really great. It's going to be interesting to see if Moose starts liking all the heat that's coming his way, because I know he's been really loving the cold.
Yeah. And I think with the name Moose, he must have a lot of fur. Is it helpful to cut them, or is it better to stay insulated with the fur? I've heard both things.
I've never heard of cutting a retriever, so I'm not sure, but he has a black coat. So
yeah. And then I was wondering, David, do your dogs stay right around? I'm sure you keep a good eye on them, but they're not wanderers, are they? I was thinking about fences and homes that come with fences and the electric fence, which I've never used, and what your feelings are about that.
They do like to wander a little bit. It's how do you trust your dog to come back, and how safe is your neighborhood, and just stuff like that. There's a couple dogs that live on my street, and they would always get out and they'd take themselves on a walk down the beach every day. And you'd see them down there on the beach and they'd just be running themselves.
That's kind of like when I grew up, I wasn't at the beach, but it was kind of in the day, dogs had a lot more freedom like that. Now, I wouldn't even dream of letting my dog have that kind of freedom. I'd be much too worried. Kind of like kids, they had more freedom too. So it's changing times.
Right. So, yeah, they really enjoyed it. So they were out there on the beach every day by themselves. So they were loving life.
Well, I am kind of lucky with Ollie. I mean, the good thing about having a dog that's scared, he's not going to go anywhere. In fact, the other day I accidentally shut him out the front door and I was like, Ollie, where are you? And I opened and there he is just sitting outside the door. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, he's not going to wander off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is why,
Bailey's not very much of a wanderer either.
Yeah. Which is
Except
why
on
there's
walks.
walks. Yes.
She loves to wander off on her own on walks. It's pretty funny.
Oh, that's cute. Well, she's probably feeling like she's the leader.
Yeah, she just goes on her own and you're like, you can't find her because she's so quiet. And she's just like, she pops up. She's like, oh, here I am.
Yeah, here I am. Yeah. On the other hand, too, Ollie is great to take out to dinner on a patio because she's like a person who likes to people watch, but he doesn't make a sound. So they sometimes don't even know he's there. He just sits and watches. So very good to go out to dinner with.
Yeah, Moose does the same thing. He just sits there and just chills. And then Bailey just wants to eat. She's like, give me food, give me food.
Give me food, yeah. Well, thank you, David, for all the great advice today. If someone wanted to work with you on selling or buying a home in Santa Barbara or just wants some advice from you, how would they reach you?
Yeah, my number is 805-617-9311. And my email is david@davidcharlesallen.com.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, Patti. It's going to be good next week.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye.